Okay, quick video from myself, Harvey Goldman. No cuts, no edits, no filters, and no hair. So for today's video, it's a very quick one about how the UK became a nation of landlords and what this has eventually come to cost us. So to understand this, you need to basically track back to the 1990s. So I would have been about 12, 13 years old. And you could buy the average house in the UK for around 3.6 times the average UK salary. Sounds awesome. Track that forward 35 years to the present day, that's a very different story. So to get the average UK house in the present day, you need 8.3 times the average UK salary. So to put that into context and what this means that basically back in the 90s, you could buy a property and you could pay your mortgage off, you could meet your mortgage payments, you'd have a deposit, no problem at all. Whereas today, to buy the average value property in the UK, which is around 260, 270,000, this would be probably a 3-bed, something like that, typical home, you can't jump onto that with a £10,000 deposit. You can't even jump onto that with a £20,000 deposit unless you want your mortgage payments to be about £1,500 a month. So realistically, to get that kind of property, you need to jump into it with a 60, maybe £70,000 deposit. And then your monthly mortgage payments will be manageable. You've safeguarded yourself against future hikes, future mortgage rate hikes, and so on. And most people just can't afford that. You imagine trying to scrape together £60,000 as a deposit today, in this day and age, when you're also paying the highest rents that have ever been seen in the UK, £1,271 a month. And that's the average for the UK. I mean, if we take London, London's actually, the average in London alone is £2,119 a month. Now that's bonkers. That's more than most people take home in a month where I actually live, in Devon. So it's obviously not sustainable. It's obviously mental. But what brought us to this point? And I guess, where do we go from here? Now, obviously, to track this back properly, you need to really go back to the right to buy origins. And that was basically Thatcher's Britain. Around the mid-80s to the late 90s, the right to buy was invented and 2.9 million council homes were basically sold. Seemed like a great idea at the time, if only we knew. Now, buy-to-let mortgages by 1996, they were invented. And by 2024, they now make up almost 20% of the UK mortgage balance. And that's crazy. That's from the Office of Finance, by the way. Track to the 2000s, you've got the credit boom, cheap, easy credit, easy loans. You've also got the advent of property TV shows, encouraging people to flip properties, to buy cheap properties, do them up. So home ownership became more aspirational. And because of that, it peaked. In fact, in 2003, 70.9% of people in UK homes actually owned those homes. So that's the sort of largest home ownership percentage on record, in fact, 2003. Now you go to 2008, obviously we had the bust, the big sort of crunch, if you like. Everything fell apart. The banks pooed the bed, for want of a better expression. They tightened up owner-occupier lending, and then investors came along and gobbled up all the stock. So there was nothing left. And because of that, for the next 12 years, up until around 2020, private rented households doubled from 2 million to 4.6 million, just in that period. And that's brought us to where we are now, 2025. We've got rental fallout. The average UK rent, as I said, is £1,271. London, it's 2,119. Over 40% of renters spend over 40% of their income on housing alone. That's from the Office of National Statistics. No-fault evictions are up in the last 12 months alone, 13%. That's from the Ministry of Justice. So there are clear winners and losers in this. Now, obviously, 45% of landlords do own multiple properties, and the median profit on those properties across the board is around 17 grand a year. I'm obviously in the wrong profession. Tenants increasingly face insecurity. They're trapped in, very often mouldy properties, unsafe properties, properties that you wouldn't let animals live in. There isn't any way out. They've got no choice. So what can be done? I mean, there was obviously a Section 21 bill that was meant to be abolished. I think it's called the Renters Reform Bill. That's been delayed time and time and time. Germany had a similar issue. They came up with rent caps, and there were pros and cons, and there was backlash, but they did it all the same, and that seems to have worked for them. Social housing in the UK is a bit of a joke. We actually need 300,000 social housing units a year. Now, in 2024, I can tell you straight away that there were 31,000 built. So we're not even really scratching just over 10% of the actual need in terms of properties being built and allocated to social housing. So obviously this increases homelessness, it increases less than ideal living situations for many people, and it isn't sustainable. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments. I'm really interested to find out what your experience of this is. Did you buy a council house in the boom? Has it worked out for you? Did you get kicked out of your house? Have you been victim to an unscrupulous landlord? I mean, obviously we've got things like shelter helplines and tenant unions that have popped up, but they're not able to fight this. They're not able to really come up with a fix. And I don't know that there really is a fix. Whether you're a landlord or a renter, where do you stand on this? What are your thoughts? I feel blessed that I mortgaged my home when I did. I was lucky enough to get into my property fairly quickly. So in 2019, I sold a business and I took that money and basically put all of it as a deposit. I think it was about £65,000 or something like that. And I put that down on a property. Luckily, over the last 5 years, the property's gone up in value. Of course it has, everything has. If I sold it now, I would realise an appreciation of about £100,000. However, everything else around the property's gone up. So it's not like I can sell my house, buy another house and have 100 grand. If I could, that'd be amazing. But I can't. Realistically, I can't. If I were to sell my house and move to Newcastle, I probably can. But it'd take more than 100 grand to get me to move to Newcastle. So there you go. So I feel blessed to be in a property. I feel blessed to actually have the four walls that I've got around me. And I know, based on homelessness that I see in my area, whether it's voluntary or whether it's people that have been kicked out and forced to be homeless, I truly do feel blessed. Even though I moan about my bills and I moan about my outgoings, I have, at the end of the day, still got a house. And I know many people are not as fortunate. But anyway, look, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Whose side are you on? Landlord or renter? Is it better to buy? Is it better to rent? Is this situation going to resolve itself anytime soon? And where are we going to find the other 290,000 properties a year that the UK needs to meet its social housing needs? The jury's out. Anyway, YouTube's going to put another video probably about there. Check it out. You might like it. Then again, you might not. YouTube's also going to recommend a playlist there. Maybe check that one out as well. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, ring the bell, all that jazz. Another video tomorrow. Goldman. Peace out.